Hello and welcome back to Ebenezer Cottage Garden. So today we're going to be talking about saving tomato seeds. It's something I do every year, predominantly with varieties that I find quite difficult to source the seeds online, or ones that, I normally, if I buy them, have to come from abroad. So a prime candidate for me is one of my favourite paste tomatoes, the opalka. So we'll go ahead and pick one and I'll show you a couple of ways you can save your seeds. There's two different ways that I'm going to do this, and all you'll need is your favourite prize tomato. Make sure it's an heirloom variety. If you do this with an F1, it won't come true. I like to then use some grease-proof paper for drying my seeds. I find this works best. And also, you'll need a glass of water. So we'll go ahead and cut into this tomato and get this demonstration started. So you're going to want to cut into the tomato, slice it across, and just look for those little pockets where the seeds are. You'll find them because they're coated in that little jelly that you can see here. Quite often with paste tomatoes, you'll find that they have few seeds. For the first method, you'll just want to scoop out your seeds, move them onto the greaseproof paper, and leave them to dry on a sunny windowsill. That's the first and most simple technique you can use when you're saving your seeds. The second way is similar. You scoop out the seeds in the same way as the first technique, but instead of going straight onto the greaseproof paper, instead, you're dropping the seeds with the jelly on into a glass of water. Now that you have your tomato seeds in your glass of water, all you're going to want to do is leave this on a windowsill again for 24 to 48 hours, 48 hours max really. And what happens is the actual jelly around the seeds ferments, so it breaks away from the seed, and you can then pop it into a sieve, wash them off, and then do the same step that you've done here. Just put it onto some greaseproof paper and leave them to dry on the windowsill. I personally prefer the technique with the glass because you get a much cleaner seed, but this one works absolutely fine just putting it on to the paper. So it just depends on personal preference really. So whilst we're here, we might as well go and have a look around at a couple of bits in the garden. Whilst I've been talking on camera this year, some of you may have noticed that I've had this fennel just swaying in the distance behind me. And there's a couple of reasons why I've left it to go to seed. One is that the seeds themselves are excellent in cooking. I personally like to make charcuterie over the winter, salami, things like that. They go really well in there. But also, if you pick the flower heads, whilst they've still got the pollen on them, you can knock this out onto a piece of paper. And you can just see a little bit of it on there, not much. And this goes really well with roast pork. They'll quite often do that in Italy. And if you go on Amazon and type in fennel pollen, you'll find out that it costs more than £1 per gram. It's £8 for 5 grams of fennel pollen. So if you've got any of these in your house at the moment, it's definitely worth checking if you can save some of this pollen and use it in your cooking, or just keep the seeds. In the past few videos, I've been talking up these pumpkins behind me, so I think I'm actually going to get in there now and pick one and see what they're looking like. So this one is a Turk's turban. Could have been picked a little bit early maybe. I'm not sure if this side's fully ripened yet, but I reckon I can cook it up and do something with it. When you are picking your squash, a little tip that I've found really good recently over the past few years is just to leave a bit of stem on there and don't just cut it straight down here. And the reason being that, if it rots or anything like that, it's got a bit more time before it actually reaches the fruit itself, if you're planning on storing them for a while. So yeah, they're looking all right. I think they probably could do with a bit more time in the ground, but there we go. So I think I'm going to go and have a look at some runner beans and my borlotti beans. We'll see how they're doing. When it comes to runner beans, I personally don't eat them when they're green and fresh. I like to leave them on to become beans that I can dry and store. And the reason why is that you get these lovely, you can see they almost look like sort of Darth Maul or something like that. beans that you can dry and use in cooking like you would a kidney bean, so fantastic in chilies and things like that. So I think these have a little bit to go. I'm going to leave them on the vine until they are looking a bit more like this, or even until they dry completely, and then I'll harvest them in maybe a few weeks or so. So this bed has been a little bit neglected. It did have my cauliflowers in here, which is an excellent harvest, but since then it's just gotten taken over by weeds really. So I think I'm going to clear the weeds out and then plant these broccoli raabs up. They're just in a seed tray. I should really have pricked them out into modules. I haven't done that, so I'm hoping that if I plonk them in the ground, they'll just be all right. See how it goes. Well, it's not perfect, but it's moments like these when you're pulling out the weeds that you think to yourself, how did I let it get so bad? I mean, really, generally, I find that just giving the ground a bit of a tickle with one of these hori knives once a week, or my hoe, just keeps things at bay, but I must have just missed this bed. Anyway, I'm going to get some of these in to the ground, and then I need to think about some sort of protection because they are a brassica and cabbage white love them. Well, it's not perfect, but I think I'll get a good crop. I hope you've enjoyed having a look around the garden and also saving some seeds with me. Definitely give it a go yourself, whether it's like with the tomatoes to grow on plants yourself next year, or for eating as it was with the fennel and also my runner beans too. So thanks ever so much for watching. Do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.